All right, we're going to get started. Good evening. Good evening. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. My name is John Stratton. I have the pleasure to meet you. I am the superintendent of Hernando County Schools, and I cannot thank you enough for being here tonight. We value your input. We definitely want to hear from you. And I just want to go over a few quick things with you on how tonight's going to go and where we are in this process. I'm just going to do a big overview. I'll hand it over to Jim and Lauren here. We're working with Lauren. He's with Dennis Demographics. It's a company we've consulted with to do this process. And then Jim here oversees the work group that works behind the scenes on this for our county here. And the work group takes many, many things into consideration. No decisions are made lightly, and no decisions are final. A final decision is only made by the school board. All we do is make recommendations. So we'll have 2 of these parent meetings. Obviously tonight, we'll do it again on the 16th, same location, same time, same type of format, where we're garnering input from the communities that are impacted, the schools that are impacted. And then we also have out there on each of our schools' websites and our district website, Let's Talk. That is a very robust system that we utilize for anything, not just this. But we have a specific button on there just about this topic for you to put in writing your thoughts and share with us. And then what we do is we give all of that to the board so they can consider things as they make a decision. I will tell you, this decision, any of the recommendations are not made lightly by any of us. Because although when we look at the demographics, it may appear as a dot on the screen, we realize that's a child and a family. We realize that. So the reason we're here tonight, the only reason, is because next door, Winding Waters last year had over 200 kids show up that were not participating. And as you'll see, the data indicates that growth is not slowing. They are currently at capacity, which includes the 12 classrooms we're adding. So this is a problem that's not going away. And I needed you to be aware of that's what brought us to the table. Simply that one school was overcrowded. And at some point, you are going to look at me and say, what are you going to do about that overcrowded school my child's going to? There's only so many options on that. So I want to assure you of a few things. Absolutely no decision has been made. None. The board has a very tough decision to make. And if you saw the board meeting the other night, I'll say it again. They can accept one of the options that we have presented. They can tweak and do something completely different. Or they can decide to do nothing at all and wait and possibly redistrict the whole district in the next year or the year after. But as I mentioned, whether it's next school year, year after, or year after, something's going to have to be done in this area. So I want to thank you in advance for your input that you get tonight. We're going to capture everything you say live back here. Angela's back here. She's going to put it all down so we don't miss anything. After Jim and Lauren present, we'll then open it up for questions and comments because there's a lot of misinformation out there too. We want to make sure that we're addressing. And honestly, the best part about this process is tonight. Because we may not have thought of the right thing, or we may not have thought of something that just makes sense. And that's the beauty of the input piece. And we've lived through this before, and we've made tweaks before based on community input. We do our best demographically to present logical models, and then we reach out to you guys and say, okay, tell us what you think, pros, cons, let us know. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. I look forward to some great discussion. I look forward to listening and trying to clear up what we can. Whichever questions we have tonight that we can't answer tonight, we'll take and then we'll put back out online and let you know the answers to that. So again, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Oh, did need to let you know, thank you, Principal Ed, for reminding me of this. Bathrooms are down this hall if you need to go. I think we have a basketball game going on tonight, so if you could use these bathrooms right down here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Again, welcome, and I echo his thoughts. We're so grateful that you're here, that you've taken time from your schedules. We know you've got families and commitments, so your time is valuable here as well. the purpose of tonight's meeting really is twofold. We want to share with you the two proposals that have been created to reduce enrollment at Winding Waters. And then we want to collect your comments, and as Mr. Stratton said, share those with the school board for their final decision. A lot of information, a lot of ground we have to cover here this evening, but we, as I said, we want to try to respect your time, so we've laid out an agenda to try and keep the discussion focused and on track. Here's how the meeting is basically going to go allotted for time. We'll do a brief overview of school capacity and then show you the student population forecasts and the effect that that's having on Winding Waters. We'll show the two proposals intended to reduce enrollment, and then we'll collect your questions and feedback on the merits of those proposals. As we go through the presentations and collect your input, we want to keep in mind some primary objectives that should help us to stay focused in our discussion. Understanding the core issue, the single problem is the rapid growth at Winding Waters. If left unaddressed, will lead to overcrowding. There are certain constraints in this process that we have to deal with. There's a requirement to balance capacity among several schools in the area before building new schools. DOE requires us to do that. There are limited transportation resources that we have to keep in mind as we're doing this. And we have to remember too that funding for even classroom additions, let alone a new school, funding for classroom additions is also very, very limited. To help clarify the goals, how are we trying to accomplish this? We want to, as the work group is working with this, our effort was to try to keep existing neighborhoods together. As we went through this, we didn't want to have any current bus riders lose that capability, so they're continuing transportation. And at the same time, we also didn't want to create a scenario which is going to increase and overburden our busing even more than it already is. So really what we're hoping is to have a collaborative meeting working with you, working together for a realistic solution. We're just one part of all of Hernando County, a wonderful place to be. And we want to consider what creative ideas do you have? Like Mr. Stratton said, there may be something that we overlooked, something we haven't thought of. There's creative ideas here in the room. Let's hear those. And again, the goal to reduce enrollment at Winding Waters K-8. So why are we considering this now? Really, why does any school district adjust their attendance boundaries? There are primarily four reasons. Either a new school is built or added on. There's capacity there. Again, it has to be balanced, the enrollment balanced among schools. Maybe there's a busing or transportation challenge that a school district is dealing with. Redistricting is a way to do that. Third, school enrollment is near or exceeds the utilization rate. That is, how full is the school? What percentage is occupied with students? And then fourth, the forecasted growth for that attendance zone exceeds the capacity for that school. Now these last two examples, you see those are highlighted in red. That's what we're dealing with. We'll take a closer look at those in a moment. But before we do, some might ask, well, what makes you sure that both of those reasons are actually the case here in Hernando? Well, that's largely why we have hired Davis Demographics and have them here with us this evening. They've given us a lot of data to work with. They also have done this work for several school districts across the nation. They do demographic studies, very, very intensive studies of the student populations that allows school districts to then make data-driven decisions, not on emotion, not on a whim or a what if, but on the actual data. Here in Hernando, they've been instrumental in helping us not only to understand our growth trends, but they've also been leading the effort and exploring ways that we can adjust the attendance boundary to make the best use of existing capacity in all our schools before we invest capital dollars in constructing new schools. And they do this by creating small study areas. You see the map divided up into small portions here, geographical groups of 70 to 100 students or so, with all the attendance boundaries. And then from there, they map out where each student lives. As you can see, the highest density of our student population is really on the US 19 corridor. So knowing that our county is growing, the next question is, where can we expect new students will live? Lauren and his team have taken really a granular look at where residential development is expected to occur. Now, while the exact timing of these developments will vary based on demand and market condition, it's evident that growth is expected to continue increasing over the next 10 years. Assuming that each housing type, whether it's apartments, multifamily, single-family development, each housing type generates a certain number of students. And assuming that that's going to be the same as what we historically have seen, they're able to develop 5- and 10-year forecasts on what we can expect our student population will look like. What they found really is eye-opening. Their forecast reveals that there's a substantial increase in the elementary student populations in some areas, but that's not the case at every school. We kind of thought it would be. At Winding Waters, which includes both elementary and middle school, of course, we can expect 435 more students in 5 years and 1,500 more students in 10 years. That's a lot of kids. The forecast for middle school students really is similar. Tremendous growth in some areas, but not everywhere. So, taking a look at existing numbers for just a moment, this is the first reason we're here tonight. School capacity is close to the utilization rate. So, basically 100% capacity, and that really is the reason we're here tonight. So after compiling the data here, we see that Winding Waters has one of the highest percentages of enrolled students and resident students, that is, those who reside within the school's boundary but may not attend that school. Other schools have percentages that are high as well, but their student population hasn't risen quite as fast, and the forecast is, as we mentioned before, not in every case going to increase. So what's another way to look at this, maybe in terms of future school capacity? When I saw this graph, it really floored me. This is the other reason we're here tonight, is the forecast growth. So you see the red line that's on there, that represents the school's capacity of 1661. So that's what that red line is, the capacity. Now the orange column shows all the resident students who live within that boundary, 1774 this year. The blue columns show the number of students that we can expect in the next 10 years. And so it's clear that we really do need to act quickly if we're going to get in front of this and keep Winding Waters from being overcrowded. The question is how. We invite you now, please, to give your attention to Lauren Woods of Davis Demographics as he guides us through 2 proposals for doing just that.
Thank you. Can I ask one question? Will this be available online for folks? Okay, so you don't need to take snapshots, you just pull it down. I saw people diligently taking photos. Don't need to your cloud account. So when we talk about this rezoning, we're talking about the examples. Example one, we already know what we're trying to avoid is overcrowding at the campus. And the goals of that are to, whenever we're doing rezoning, is trying to keep the neighborhoods together not to split the neighborhoods. The continuation of bus ridership, making sure the students that are on a bus, that they still have that available to them. And then limit the adverse impacts on transportation. We shouldn't take that very lightly, especially with economic issues. Transportation's dealing with a lot of other things, fuel and storage costs and all those things. With example one, we're primarily, in fact, it's the only area in example one, specifically the southern section of Winding Waters, K8, is our first example of shift from Winding Waters to Pine Grove Elementary and then West Hernando. Both these campuses have the capacity available to take on those students. The goal in both examples was trying to attain the number around 450, 500 students in the shift in advance of that growth that's projected the next 5 years. And don't click the button, sorry. Here it goes, sorry about that. You're not gonna be able to read that table. It's okay, it'll be blown up in a second. When we look at the maps, in all the examples, you'll notice these dark outline polygons. Those are the sections that were formerly of one area that will be assigned. So in this example one, those black polygons were once Winding Waters and are now being reassigned to Pine Grove, as we were talking about in our example. And we'll zoom in and give that a second to catch up over here. And let's take the time. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, I didn't want to go too fast. Some of the machines are trying to catch up. We'll zoom into these areas. Jim spoke about we saw with the development maps and the density within the district, it's US 19, that corridor where we have some continuity of neighborhoods, so we're trying to make sure that they're staying together, and with this shift from one zone to the other, everybody stays together. The other part is because of the location and discovery during some of the work sessions, it seemed to make the most sense with transportation, getting in and out of those neighborhoods. If children are on the bus, they're still on the bus, they're just going to the right instead of the left. The middle school zone, same area, just a different color, right? It's the Winding Waters, and now with the middle school zones, I want to make sure you're clear that the orange areas, the orange polygon outlines are the existing zones. We'll zoom in. Same neighborhoods, just going to West Hernando. And then there's the example of the shift. So 268 students will be moving into the Pine Grove Elementary area, increasing the enrollment, going to 84%. You'll see the Winding Waters 422 enrolled students are going to be changing, right, going to the other school. It'll allow Winding Waters to have some space for those projected new students. And with West Hernando, you have 150 students that'll be leaving from that area going to West Hernando, 154. And the enrollment's only increasing almost less than 65%. So we're just helping alleviate space, creating space in a school that needs it. Example 2. Same focus, same issue, right? We have an overcrowded campus. keeping neighborhoods together, continuing the bus ridership, and limiting the impacts within those communities. A couple of different things here. When we saw that south section in the first example, now we're looking at the neighborhoods that are along the shared boundary line, and not going further west into the area, but only going a few neighborhoods along the shared boundary line. In the elementary example, in this example, we're also relieving some space from Deltona and Spring Hill and having those students go to West Side Elementary that has plenty of capacity for students. Again, keep in mind, creating opportunity and space for development. So there's a couple, the first one was pretty easy, where we can track that. When we get to the map, you'll see what I'm talking about. But when we're going to move study areas to Pine Grove, because they have capacity, we're going to move one study area in the middle school from Fox Chapel, but the other ones will be all going to, the other ones within Winding Waters will go to West Hernando. So we have one area down below that's in Fox Chapel right now that'll go to West Hernando, and then the remaining study areas we'll see in the map are going to West Hernando. Let's see if I can get that to click. Thank you. There we go. Nope, don't want that zoom. Sorry about that. That's right. Give it a second to catch up. So you see it's a little more, it's not as, that one section was pretty easy to detail, right? Well, now we're talking about the shared boundary of the elementary areas. So they're not going as deep into Winding Waters, but they're going along the shared boundary of those areas. Again, black outline are the areas affected in the elementary zones that will be attending either Pine Grove or West Side. Gosh darn it, I did it again. I work with computers every day. There's a zoomed in view of it. You'll notice that in this example, remember the previous example, it was just that one section along US 19 and then a little bit further in to the western portion of Winding Waters. In this case, it's now it's going from the east side of US 19 and then upwards on the other side, a little bit further north, some of the neighborhoods associated that are right next to the shared boundary lines. And then, of course, mentioned the attendance zones that are being shifted into West Side. Don't worry about seeing that table. We're going to see it in a second. With the middle school, it's primarily those sections that are associated with that boundary that's going over to Pine Grove, except for that one study area just south, and that's Fox Chapel. We'll zoom in, and we'll go to the table. So there's a few more numbers to see, shifting of population. In this example, we're affecting a little over 450 resident students, or 370 enrolled students currently in Winding Waters. And those students will be attending West Hernando. 135 will be attending West Hernando. The Pine Grove portion, 273. West Side will be picking up 177, and that's from Deltona and from Spring Hill. Again, these are just examples. We really are here to get input, get insight from you all about your thoughts. What are some of the advantages? There's some of the questions, general question, right? What are some of the advantages? I think we're ready for Q&A. I want to give you all plenty of time because your time is valuable to us.
So if you have a question or comment, we do have a few microphones here because we'd love for everybody to hear what you have to offer. And as we take in everything into consideration, and again, reminder, nothing has been decided at this point. I also want to take a moment. I see I have a few board members here. I know Ms. Prescott's over there. Thank you for attending. Mr. Johnson's here, I believe, and I think Ms. Rodriguez is here as well. And if I missed anybody, if I missed Gus or Susan, I don't see you, I'm sorry. Board members are here, and they cannot give input because they can only do that in a board meeting. So right now, if you did want to talk to them, make sure you do it as an individual, way away from each other. You see they're spread out, so I want to be real clear. They have to be in the sunshine all the time. But they want to come out tonight and hear what you had to say as well. So thank you for being here tonight. So Karen has a microphone, so just raise your hand, she'll come find you.
Hello, my name is Henry and I live in Woodland Waters. I represent 3 families that have 5 children in the school system. 2 kids in high school, 1 kid in the elementary school where it's up the road, and 1 kid in the intermediate school. I don't know which one she's going to. Here's the concern that I have. I just did a Google map, and my friend was saying the same thing. They work, they have to commute. Their time is limited. I did a Google map search, and I noticed that to get from my neighborhood, right, where these kids live, to this area, it's 5 miles, right? It's 8 minutes or something. To go to the other school is going to be a 10-mile trip. And for some people that are on 19, represents taking 2 of the most dangerous highways in Florida, not just in this area. Highway 19 is called the highway of death. And every time I come out of my little association, I see glass and plastic, and I figure somebody hit somebody, or some car hit another car. So the concern that I have, and this has been relayed to me by the parents, that now they're going to have to not just take their kids twice as far to a school that's way away from the community, but they're going to have, a lot of parents are going to have to go through 19 through 50, or they're going to have to cut through the neighborhoods, which adds a whole universe of pain. Because I was a parent, and I remember having to get my kids to school at 7 o'clock. I probably broke a couple of speed laws. And so that is a concern. I understand that you gentlemen and ladies, you're planning for the future, and I commend you, thank you for what you do, because yours is a difficult job. I can only provide feedback. You guys get stuck with the decisions. But we are talking about the future. We're talking about future population growth in communities that perhaps have not even broken ground yet, versus parents who already have the kids in the school, have set up their lives and purchased property to live in a neighborhood where they can get their kids to school easily, and now that's going to change.
I just wanted to say thank you. I absolutely appreciate and respect everything you said there, and it makes sense. Those are things that we try to take into consideration as we make these decisions as well. And I realize this community, these attendance communities here we're talking about have been in place, and the others are in the future falling in place. So the board will take all of that into consideration. I also want to let you know that our other board members are online as well listening, so they value your input and they're listening.
Hi, my name is Larry Lawson. I live in Woodland Waters also. And one of the things that just struck me on this is the projected people coming into our community. Well, why do we have to move people who are existing in school districts to go someplace else when the new people haven't even been to a school district? They haven't established their friends. They haven't established their community of interest. And they're moving in and they're taking over the spaces and moving out people who are established. That just doesn't seem right to me. It also, I agree with him very much that little kids especially, you're talking about elementary school, they're the ones that we don't want on buses for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half to go to school. We want them in the shortest period of time because the school and family is most important to them. And their learning experience will be enhanced if they're not bored as tears riding a school bus for 45 minutes every day each way. That's an hour and a half of their day. And, 10 miles may only say, oh, that's only 15 or 20 minutes. Not when you put all the bus stops in there. That becomes at least 45 minutes or more. There's also concern about the fact that you start busing people like that, the extra cost of fuel for our buses. And we all know the fuel's going way up. That becomes a taxpayer burden. I think we should look at moving the new people in, or if we have neighborhoods that are going to be expanding and make them responsible for putting a new school. The builder put something in, add something to make sure that he adds to the schools. It's less of a burden on the county. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Again, I don't disagree with a single point you made there. But I will tell you that the only thing we can look at when we're talking about a school that's overcrowded, is attendance boundary changes. I can't stop new members that are coming in that live in the attendance zone. They have a right to go to the school that they live in. So as those neighborhoods fill in up there, it's going to be difficult for us to carve that out. I can't put a moratorium. We've discussed that and thought about that. Can we put a moratorium on it to any new enrollments? And at this point, no, we can't. That's when you look at attendance boundary changes. But I agree with you. We're talking about future. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't on us now, right now. We have an overcrowded school. But again, the board can decide to wait and see what happens, or they can decide to look at a variation of anything we talk about tonight. And before I hand it back, I just wanted to recognize also, we have one of our county commissioners with us tonight listening, Jerry Campbell. I appreciate you being here very much, sir, very much.
Ma'am, we'll let you go. I know we have another person. Okay, so ma'am, first you, and then we'll go back to the table.
My name is Carolyn Kosnewski, and I live in Woodland Waters as well. Although it appears on the rezoning map that Woodland Waters directly connects to West Hernando Middle School, there is no eastern or northern access road in our development. Therefore, buses would have to travel either west from Hexon and then south to Woodland Waters on 19, or west on CR 50 to Nightingale, and then north to Woodland Waters to access the development. Both routes take the buses through the Weeki-Wachee High School zoning area. It's approximately 10 miles to West Hernando Middle School and 11 miles to Fox Chapel Middle School from the interior of Woodland Waters. It's approximately 5 miles to Winding Waters K-8 school. It's approximately 11 miles to Pine Grove, West Side, and Deltona Elementary schools, and is 8.4 miles to Spring Hill Elementary. It's about 5 miles to Winding Waters K-8. There are points farther south on the zoning map that are directly tied to current West Hernando and Fox Chapel zones, as well as the other elementary schools that would be much easier and more cost-effective to access. 5 miles, 2 times a day, times 180 days of school is 1,800 additional bus miles per year per bus run. Also, the quality of education. The school ranking on publicschoolreview.com shows Weeki-Wachee K-8 ranking 6 out of 10. Math score is 59%. Reading score is 52%. West Hernando Middle School, 4 out of 10. 55% math scores, 44% reading scores. Fox Chapel, 3 out of 10. 39% math scores, 44% reading scores. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to be clear. I don't think either proposal sends anyone to Fox Chapel. We're only talking about going to West Hernando for middle school. So I want to be clear on that. And I'm proud of all of our schools. And yes, we have some information here if you're interested on 3 of the schools. For example, Pine Grove is a B school, rated just like a B school next door. But nonetheless, I hear you, and I know the board hears you as well. And I would agree, there's not any great routes to the west, or east, sorry, coming out of Woodland Waters.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Donna Nelson, and I also live in Woodland Waters. I have a 12-year-old over in middle school, and we actually relocated here a year and a half ago from Illinois. Before we moved here, we did extensive research on the schools. And one of the reasons we picked this area is because of the school. Because my son does have an IEP, and this school has everything he needs, and they've been wonderful. We looked and we researched. We built over in Woodland Waters, and the main reason is because we are close to this school. It is a good school. It has what it needs to offer for my son. And it's just, when we were in Illinois, I was on school board at the middle school, and I respect all you people because it's a thankless job. So thank you for doing what you're doing. But one of the things I'm going to tell you about that happened in a town called Foxford Road, and you can look it up. They decided they were going to reorganize just like you guys are thinking about doing. Well, they did it. A year later, a whole bus of kids and a bus driver was killed because of it. And if they would not have reorganized, all those children and that bus driver would still be alive. The gentleman over there is talking about 19 and everything. I agree with that. We lived through that. And you can look it up online if you want. But you got to take the kids into consideration. And you were talking about people coming into this area. What about the people that are using someone else's address so their children can go here? I know of a couple. I wouldn't say who they are, but I do. And that's not fair to the rest of us that, moved in here, chose to come in where, we want our children to go to school and it be a good school. And I'm not saying the other schools aren't, but I have a reason to feel that way with my son, the other man, and Pete. So thank you for listening to me.
No, thank you. I think it's extremely reasonable you research, you move into a neighborhood, you want to attend the school based on that, and many of us build based on that, in fact. One thing we just have to keep in mind is I can't help the growth that's coming. And that doesn't mean we're going to do anything that we've talked about today. But in the future, at least, whether again the next school year or the years after that, we're going to have to do something. I don't know what that looks like. We'll see as it plays out, if it's not one of these. But I wanted to also mention, we did last year, we did attendance verification. And yes, some people, unfortunately, don't tell us the truth. But we did a verification. We found about 20. We are doing a verification again right now, for that same reason. Because yes, if you've given falsified information, you should not be attending any school that you falsified that information for. But I will tell you, currently enrolled, 97.5%, as you saw, live in the attendance zone. I understand they could falsify that address, but we verified that already, that 97.5% live in there. And we're in the day of school choice now, so things are very different than how we used to redistrict, because we honestly have kids coming and going all over the district on school choice, which is a great thing. Not so great when it comes to redistricting. Luckily, it's a very, very, very small amount, because we shut down school choice several years ago because we knew they were at 90%, at high 80s, and we cut it off at that point. So we're monitoring all of those as well, trying to maintain our current status. But again, I appreciate everything you've shared with us on that.
Thank you. Was there a person in the back? Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
basically I'm just reinforcing the whole distance and I as well live in Woodland Waters. Just did quick math on Google. I don't have a lot of GIS mapping experience, but again, I'm interior Woodland Waters, so I live 5.3 miles from the school. It's a relatively quick commute. We talked about it the other day though. It doesn't sound like much to impact a drive by 10 minutes, but if you do it twice a day, you're looking at another 30 minutes twice a day. But so I live 5.3 miles from Winding Waters. I'm 9.6 from West Hernando. That doubles my time, impacts me by just a guess, $7 a day, times 5 days a week. Equate that to a month. I don't think it's fair to parents that drive their children to school. And we also have to worry about, we keep talking about this bus budget and busing the children around. We've only been offered 2 options. Now, one of them is what area is the closest to West Hernando Middle School? I mean, if you look down Hexham Corridor, which we would be driving every day, the middle point would be Marble, which separates Royal Highlands Units 4 and 5, almost definitively north and south. Marblewood, if you take a right, you're 4.4 miles from Winding Waters. If you take a left, you're 4.4 miles from West Hernando. Going further east, your Fulmar is
I'm sorry to interrupt.
3.6
I want to
miles
hear
from
what
West
you're trying to
Hernando.
say.
Okay, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
And I'm not trying to exclude any other neighborhoods. I just want to know why our 2 examples only focus on our southern corridor when there's an area that's so much closer, less impactful to the families, less impactful to the bus system. And not to mention, I'm no longer in the medical field, but I was also a clinician for 20 years. You treat the patient, not the number. Winding Waters is outperforming all these other schools operating at capacity. Now you're going to take kids from other schools and put them into these underperforming schools. I don't understand the logic. If what we have is working, even though we're overburdened, the teachers have extra children in the classroom, they're still outperforming these other schools. So again, we're treating the number and not the patient in this case.
Yeah, absolutely, they are performing next door, absolutely, hands down. My concern is they're just not going to be able to keep up with the growth. But I love your suggestions. Angela, hopefully you've got those down. We can always relook at the map and things. Some things we take into consideration, as Lauren said, obviously trying to keep neighborhoods together. But the number of children that reside in any cluster that he shows you too. So.
Now, I would like to mention, again, I'm from Woodland Waters. There's only 2 vacant lots in Woodland Waters. Our child population is not going to grow. But the units that are closest to West Hernando are the places where everybody's growing. Why, I don't understand the proximity, the potential for growth. So you're jumping children that are already here to another school, and you know the potential growth is proximal to the other school, more proximal to West Hernando than, this more southerly neighborhoods. And just a suggestion, and I'll give up the mic, but, a lot of thoughts. One, we have magnet schools in the county. Over these past few years, have we ever thought about giving preferential treatment to the school zones that are overburdened, or the districts that are overburdened to our magnet schools? How about a voluntary downsizing of the school? I mean, it's a thought.
Excellent. Yeah. Again, excellent point. We'll share that with the board. We will go back and also look at Royal Highlands, areas we didn't capture because there is growth happening there. You're right. And so we'll go back and look at that as well to see if that's a viable option. But I also wanted to address one frequently asked question I get is high school. Nothing we're talking about changes high school boundaries. They would remain intact regardless of which decision or what decision the board makes.
Just a reminder, folks, make sure to put the mic right in front of you so everybody's back in here. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm a little bit nervous. I usually don't speak up. Recently, my family, we just.
Hold it up.
2 years ago, we specifically bought our property, like Woodland Waters, because of the school. The school is very important for us and our family. We move a lot, and this is it. This is our final move, and the reason we chose Wikiwachi because of the school. School is very important, and it's really hard for me to tell my daughter right now. There's a possibility, because I know you guys say that you're still thinking about it, she's gonna move, or they might change her to a different school. I don't know what to tell her right now, and that's not what I can say. It's not my job to tell you what you guys to do. It's just, please. I love this school. We chose this school. We bought the place because this is the place where my kids, to graduate high school, start from the bottom. Because again, I have a college student. He has to move to so many different schools. But I don't want this for my daughter. I don't want that same life what my older son has to go through. Not this one. Please. That's all I can say. And I'm glad, I'm happy to pay my tax, property tax, even if it's $18,000. I'm really happy because I know that this school is safe for her. And it's just my husband and I were willing. I just want the school, that's all. I bought the house because of the school. Wine and water, high school, and my son, he's also playing basketball right now. And he's doing a great job. And thank you so much.
Okay, you pointed two directions.
No, I'm directing the mic.
Russ Arns, Woodland Waters. A few quick questions. If you talk about utilization, student utilization, what's your criteria? Is it student to teacher ratio, square footage? What is your utilization rate?
So each school has a certain number of what the state calls student stations, the number of seats that students can occupy. So that's what we call capacity. At the elementary school level, DOE, Department of Education, considers 100% utilization for elementary schools, and I believe it's 90% of those student stations for middle schools, because the middle schoolers move around and occupy more classes and so on and so forth. So that percentage of capacity really is what we're talking about. How, when we say percentage of utilization, how many of those available seats for students are utilized by actual students enrolled at the school.
So to be clear, it's basically square foot per desk.
So the number of students varies per grade level. So for the primary grades for elementary, it would be 18 students per classroom. For your intermediate, which is going to be grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, that's 22 students per classroom. And then for high schools, it's 25 students per classroom. And the classrooms, there are guidelines for their sizes, but it's not really based on square footage as long as each classroom meets the DOE minimum classroom size, then they determine that it can accommodate that number of students.
So, I mean, not to sound smart, I mean, I'm not trying to be at all, but if you were to say, okay, 26 students per classroom, the overcrowding goes away.
So that gets into an issue that Mr. Stratton is more familiar with than I am.
And just to add to what Jim said, the Florida State Department of Education looks at each usable space on a campus and determines the number of student stations it generates. It doesn't mean every space we have is considered a student seat generator. For example, rooms, mechanical rooms, things like that obviously wouldn't be. But they even include the gym and those types of things, as Jim mentioned, students move around. To answer your question specifically though, we also have class size amendment, which we have to cap our classes at a certain number, but that's based on a school-wide average. So as long as we meet that number, we're okay. That doesn't mean you're gonna have, and the class sizes are 18, depending on your grade level, 22 or 25 for primary, middle years, and then secondary respectively. It's a school-wide average, so you might have 26, 27 in a classroom, or you might have under that number in this other classroom. It becomes a school-wide average. The problem we have specifically at Winding Waters, because how we rectify that is we get another teacher allocation. We create another class. There's just no physical space over there left to create another class. And that's why you will have doubled up classrooms. And we have some over there now. When I was principal at Explore K years ago, when I first got there, we had about 2,200, 2,300 kids. And I had 32 classrooms, K through 3, all doubled, every one of them. We managed, we did it, but I will tell you, those physical classrooms were larger than we have next door. It's all done by regulations and everything, but these are not the largest classrooms. They're beautiful, but they can't hold too many kids in there and still be able to operate. So that's where we are, is that as I get more kids, I get more teachers, but that principal has to figure out where am I putting them. And then we end up converting what are traditional classrooms into a classroom. That's what we're dealing with right now. That's why we were adding the 12 additional rooms, and then hopefully that will at least alleviate the capacity we have now, temporarily. That's assuming we don't continue to grow. That's, again, why we're here, because the trend data says it will. So I hope I answered that. If not, I can have more discussion.
Yeah, but in the line that you were talking about, the growth, does the school board have the ability to stop growth? Can they say no permits in this area because we can't school them?
No, but I'll hand it back to Jim because he represents us with the county commissioners on their planning and growth. Yeah, we really have a hard time stopping growth because what happens is exactly what we're here today talking about. The rules say, do you have area, or do you have availability, space availability in the adjacent school zones? And we do. So that doesn't stop growth because we can redistrict them. And Jim, if you want to elaborate a little more on that.
Stop it in this area and say build over there.
So this is the struggle that we deal with, and I see it regularly at the Planning and Zoning Commission, is developments will come in requesting a certain number of homes. I evaluate the zone school to see if there's sufficient capacity there. If there is not, both local ordinance and state law mandate for concurrency that I evaluate each adjacent school whose boundary touches that one to see if they have capacity. If they do, then we are obligated to say, yes, there is capacity in the district as a whole, because the presumption of law and ordinance is we will do what we're here doing tonight, change attendance boundaries to accommodate that growth. It's driven by statute and by ordinance.
We would love to stop some growth in some areas, to be honest.
Have you considered asking for an impact fee on new houses? Specifically to build even portable classrooms?
I have personally been asking the county commission for about the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years, asking them to increase it. We've handed them 2 separate reports that show that we are well under. We are currently at about 3,400 a year, and the study done in 2019 said we should have been up double that. So we're currently at 50% of what the 2019 study says. We've had another study done since then that said we should be even higher. And that's just, impact fees aren't going to build schools. I've heard that out there said, and it's true, but it will certainly alleviate a lot of the cost. Right now, we're currently bringing in about a little over $6 million a year. Again, we're at half of what we should be. So that would be 12, 13 million a year. That goes a long way. It's a lot further, obviously. And I have personally stood before the county commissioners and said, growth should be paying for growth, not current taxpayers. Because what's going to happen is we're going to end up borrowing, and it's going to be the burden of everyone in the room then, not on those that are coming in. Growth should be paying for growth. We are meeting with the county commissioners, and there's some new ones on there. I'm excited to meet with them. And I believe that's coming up in the next month or two. We're going to meet, and we'll be talking about this, about the growth that we're all dealing with, because in my opinion, they're suffering the same fate. They're not going to be able to keep up with the infrastructure, in my opinion, as well, of what we're dealing with. So I appreciate that question we've been asking. And just so everybody understands too, there was about a 10-year period. I think it was 2005, and there was more building then, believe it or not, but we were up at 16 million a year we were collecting. And then it went down to literally a moratorium of 0 for a few years, several years. And then there might have been 1,500 a year, literally. So there was a 10-year span where we collected little to nothing. And then now we're on the other side of that, trying to play catch up. So I appreciate that question.
Well, if you need citizens with you at that meeting, tell me.
Again, we've got some new members on there. I'm excited. I think we have some like minds of just what's best for the entire county as a whole, not just education or the county side of it.
Thank you.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brittany. I have 2 children at Winding Waters. I have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. When I first saw example 1, my heart sank. I have my 2nd grader, I homeschooled because of COVID. And then we did brick and mortar for Winding Water last year. She's made friends. Her bus, we live 4.9 miles from the school. Her bus, we're the first bus stop. So she's 10 minutes from the time the bell rings to the time she gets home. When I first saw example 1, my heart sank. But when I saw example 2, that we were within the Winding Waters, I had a little. So I was wondering, is there like a voting, or any kind of input, like to pick one?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what I recommend is I mean, we're going to capture your thoughts tonight, but through Let's Talk, you can definitely, it's on record, and like I said, we'll share that out. And I want to be, we're very, very aware and cognizant. This has an impact on people and their daily lives. And these are our students who we care and love on every single day. So nothing is made lightly. We just also have an obligation to make sure we're managing the entire district when it comes to where capacity is or isn't. We're managing that. And so no matter what we do, even if we don't do anything at this time, there's going to be some pain involved with that. And the pain I'm referring to would be overcrowdedness for a little while. So I appreciate that.
I forgot to mention, we do live like 5 to 7 minutes away from school, and then I work right up on the corner of 1950, and then our extracurricular, even though being the first bus stop, we're still 5 minutes late to our extracurricular up in Homosassa. Yes, I know it's not Hernando County, but for us, it's literally all on 19, it's one straight shot, so.
We'll do our best to minimize impact on all of our families, knowing that at some point we will have an impact.
We have 2 mics in the crowd too, so make sure to raise your hand. Okay, so in back, ma'am. Lisa? You had a question earlier. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So my name is Mary Mazzucco, M-A-Z-Z-U-C-O. And I live in Woodland Waters as well. And I live in Woodland Waters as well. Can everyone that is from Woodland Waters please stand up? Can everyone that is standing show by hands if you have children in the system? Okay, thank you. So you are talking to the majority group that have a tremendous vested interest in what the school system does with their children. My children are all grown. My grandchildren choose to go to a different school because their mother is a school teacher. My only skin in the game are my neighbors and their children. I am not being paid to be here, okay? We have several issues. One of the things that was said at the beginning of this was that there were 200 students coming from somewhere else. Why? If what you're looking to do is minimize the population, then take those 200 students and put them back where they belong and stop breaking this block of students. That's one. Two, how many students actually reside in this particular district versus throughout the whole county? Or from out of county, because I've been told that students are coming in from surrounding counties, okay? So you could whittle away at that versus whacking away one group of people. Get very upset when I feel that people are being abused or pushed around. I have an issue with that, and that's what I feel is happening here. I understand that there are certain legislative rules that we have to follow, but there's also compassion that has to be applied, and it's not strictly by the numbers, okay? When I went to school, which was like 100 years ago, one of the things that we had to do, whether we liked it or not, was have split sessions. So we had split sessions. So you had a group of kids that came in at 7, they went to school until 1, and then we had a group of kids that came in at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and stayed until 5:30, 6 o'clock. That's a viable possibility. You may not like it, but you know what? Until those developments come in, this would be a way of controlling the population. Now, someone here said, well, let the builder pay for this. I'm going to tell you, I'm a builder, there's another builder in here. Okay, it is not the builder's responsibility to pay for new schools, it is the developer. We have a new development coming up just north of Woodland Waters called Lake Hideaway. How many residences, Jake?
3,700.
3,700 residences are going to come in there. Guess what? They had to sign their lives away. They're supposed to supply a school. It's on the records. They're going to have a school. The economy right now, I don't care what's happening in Tampa, but the economy right now is getting ready to crash. We survived 08. You survived 08? Two builders. We survived 08. There was no impact fees or very little connected because when you're watching grass grow, you don't go out and stomp on it, okay? You just don't. And you wait for it to develop. Well, guess what? Now we've developed. You guys got $17 million in reserves. Why can't we use that? If it's reserved and it's not allocated, why can't that money be used? How come when Jimmy Lodato was on, all he did was boast about these concrete building schools that he was bringing in? Am I right or am I wrong? Where are they? Are they here? Or aren't they here? That's what they collected a half cent for. Crickets. That's what I'm hearing. Temporary buildings, concrete, redistricting. You want to redistrict? Redistrict the whole county. Take those boundary lines and move them all over the place. Go ahead. Let's see what happens then. You can't just take one group of people and shift them. That just doesn't fly. And no one here is going to allow it, okay? Lake Hideaway. And there are other subdivisions. I understand there's 2 other subdivisions coming in just north of here. Large groups of subdivisions. Those subdivisions, I don't care that they got approved last year. Go out there. Turtles, coyotes, ain't nothing happening out there. That means you have infrastructure to build as a developer before you can even pour streets, before you can even build a house. Odds are, nothing will be built there. What do you think? 7, 8 years? 7, 8 years. Why are we here worrying about something 7 or 8 years from now when you've got Lake Hideaway and the other 2 subdivisions coming in? Is it because we want to make the grades better at the other school? Shift the teachers around. That'll make it easier. They don't care whether they pull into Winding Waters or over to West Hernando Middle School. But to displace all these people? I don't think so. That just is not going to fly. Thank you.
So thank you. There's a lot there, so I'll try to address what I can. First of all, let me send your thanks to your daughter for me for being a teacher. We truly appreciate that and desperately need more. The 200 you referred to, I'm not sure what that meant, the 200 coming in or 200 there that shouldn't be. That's not the case. We have 97.5% of the students enrolled there are in the attendance zone currently. Again, could they try to cheat the system? Yes, but 97% have an address that's in the attendance zone right now. We have very few school choice over there, the majority of which are the staff that work there. And I think that leaves about 30-something school choice that were from years prior, and the statute's very clear on that. When you get accepted on school choice, you are there until the highest grade level offered, unless you're a behavioral issue, an academic issue, or something like that, where we can put them on notice. So if you're performing like you should as a student, you have a right by statute to remain there. And that's about 30-something kids. And we have about 40-something staff member kids over there. So you're looking at about 70 kids over there that are on school choice from years prior or from recent hires. So again, we're going to do those attendance checks to make sure, to the best of our ability, that they truly are residing within the attendance area. And then the split sessions are definitely an option, albeit in my opinion, a very short-term option. I don't think that works well for parents or staff or students. And so I think it's something that districts do as a temporary measure to get through something. And we are trying to plan long-term. And I also want to make it very clear that it's not lost on us that the majority in this room this evening are from Woodland Waters. The board knows that, I know that. And then the half-cent sales tax, I believe that's not used to build concretables. That was for capital projects that were deferred throughout the recession for years. It's very specific on what we can spend that money on, and it's not for concretables. Now, when we renew it, we could add that in there to help alleviate. In fact, when we renew it, we can bond against it and build schools at that point. And then finally, the comment about grades. I believe in every one of my schools, we're not moving kids around for grade purposes. That's not how it works at all. That's immoral, and it's dismissive to me for the abilities of all of our students, regardless of their zip code or their address.
Sir Beck, and then we'll go over to you on the right.
Daniel, Woodland Waters. Mentioned about school choice, about 37 kids-ish. And I know, I'm assuming that there's a implementation and you decided to move forward with it, it's going to be over the next couple of years and basically for the development that's coming, correct?
So So that would be a decision the board would make. There's several ways they can do it. They could do it, rip the Band-Aid off, everybody goes. They can do a grandfathered process, which we've done in the past. And that even that can look many different ways. You can grandfather in the highest grade level offer that's typically done. You can go through the hardship process. The board has a lot of decisions to make that if they don't want to do everything at once, then there are other options on how they can do that to allow for attrition over time.
Right, so when you have the actual, once you decide to restructure and take out Woodland Waters and the surrounding areas right around Woodland Waters and move them, that's going to free up your 97.5%. It'll drop it, I'm assuming, to 80-ish or whatever you guys said earlier. So my question to you is, at this point, because you're waiting for developments with the, home developments that are being built here in the future. So would you give an opportunity for the children here at Woodland Waters and some other places the opportunity to do school choice in the meantime? Because you're not really going to go over that 97.5% because you're restructuring. So those who have no problems moving, so be it. But those that are currently in school, especially when there's only the middle schoolers close to going on to high school, because you said high school's not being touched at all. Correct. So if you have a 6th grader or 7th grader or 8th grader, and this is looking to be implemented in a couple of years, would you allow them to do school choice, being that they live 2 miles down the road or whatever it is, that they can come here? That's my question.
Yes, that is an option the board could have as far as school choice goes, especially if it drops below 90%. I would recommend we cap it at 90. But again, the board can do whatever they choose in terms of grandfathering in or school choice. Some other options I've seen out there is allow grandfathering in, but no longer provide transportation. And those that voluntarily go to the new zone are then on our transportation buses. Because we can't run transportation for 2 schools within one attended zone. It's just not feasible to do that. But there are so many options still to explore, and that's why we're having these conversations and talking about those types of things. And again, there might be options that we haven't thought of, and that's why we're here tonight. But it's evident to us, the majority of you are from one neighborhood, and again, the board members are tuning in, if not here, so they're hearing you loudly and clearly.
Yes, sir.
My name is John Hardy. I have a clarifying question on capacity. So can you remind us what the total capacity of Pine Grove is?
It's in the Excel sheet, it's 1488.
And can you tell me what percentage of that is permanent versus relocatable?
Not tonight. We can get that. I can get that, but I don't have it here.
So off your website, it says permanent capacity is 742, relocatable is 764. So more than half of the capacity is showing as actually relocatable. So how do you define relocatable?
So that definition really comes from DOE. Relocatable is either the traditional portables that we're accustomed to seeing, or it's modular construction, which there's some of that, I think, at Pine Grove, and then there's and I know Floyd has them too, the large 2-story concretable buildings, because of the type of construction that they were, those were deemed by DOE to be relocatable. And district leadership has indicated that it really, of those kind of buildings that really are of a more permanent nature, that we continue to rehabilitate those. So a lot of that is being counted as relocatable, but is being used in more of a permanent nature.
And if I kind of think where you're going here, yeah, I want to be very clear. There are a large number of portables located at Pine Grove Elementary School that, as they grow, they will be used. They're used now as classrooms, some of them. As they grow, they would continue to utilize those as needed.
Are they portable?
Yes. portable in the sense of the definition. But again, I think you're asking that we move our portables and create a portable over here. That's still not going to be able to keep up with the long-term growth. And there are costs associated with that as well when we relocate. And I also want to mention the age of those portables.
Do we need to tear them down, build a new school?
We are going to have to build. It's a matter of where, honestly. It's a matter of where. It's a matter of whether it's up in this area or on the east side of the county or both at some point, because both are increasing rapidly. But the building is several years out, meaning even if we started today, you're looking at 3 or 4 years before occupancy.
But more than half of the buildings in Pine Grove are quote unquote relocatable.
Probably, yeah.
I just wanted to echo some of the points already made. In looking at that map, there does look like there's a large area along Hexham that is considerably closer to Pine Grove and West Hernando than grabbing Woodland Waters and pulling it out. Also, I don't know if you guys are aware, I know the consultants are from out of state, but Woodland Waters and Glen Lakes have always been in the Winding Waters K-8 district zone since that was open. So you're talking about taking a community that was there when the school opened and families that invested time and money in their life in that school and asking them to go to another school. I know a line has to be drawn somewhere, but Woodland Waters is not the place to do it. That community has always been that. Plenty of ones, when you look at your map, and you guys aren't familiar with the area, so it's nothing you would know, but there's plenty of area further down on Hexham, and the other gentleman made a good point about trying to line down the middle of Hexham where it geographically is an even split. Those people can get there far easier. Also on the discussion of build and do, obviously the state, Mr. Stratton, I'm sure you know, owns all the property to the west of this complex here. You guys have the stoplight, so I've talked to other commissioners before. It'd have to happen at a government level for future planning, but it would make complete sense to try to get a hold of land directly across from where we're sitting here. And even if Winding Waters turns into middle school and grade school built across there, or whatever you guys come up with, you have the infrastructure, you have the stoplight and all the money that goes into that. Build across the street with the future school, plans for that now. Thank you.
Yeah, no, great suggestion. That's not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, we are looking for large parcels of land now because we know we're going to have to build, and we have one very large, well, not very, we have one large parcel out for the east side, but we don't have anything over here. We've talked about everything. It doesn't have to stay the same configuration on this little path here we are now, especially if you did add another building, you could do a whole different kind of configuration. Those are all options the board are going to have to think about and talk about, especially when it comes time to where are we building and when. And do we just keep adding on, or do we build a whole new school in proximity that lightens some of it? So great suggestion. And then again, we'll go back and we'll look at that Hexham area that we're referring to. When Lauren does his thing, we can capture how many students for any of those, each of those, and what effect it has on downsizing this school as well. So we'll look at all of those options, discuss it with the board for them to make a final decision on that. And to be clear, I'm well familiar with the area. I've been here since '94, and I was here when we constructed those schools. And I know Jim lives here too, and he's been here in the district. Yes, Lauren's from outside, but Lauren did go out and talk to developers, his company. That's part of what they did, and say, where are you and which phase? And when can we expect actually groundbreaking to start? Those types of things. So all of that was built into his analytics as well. But thank you, great suggestion. If you have a lead on that property, let us know.
Okay, I am from that Hexham area, and I think everyone everybody has the right to be here, and not only because all of you come from whatever the name of that place is. I mean, we all have the right, and I don't like it when you start pointing fingers, I should stay or you shouldn't stay. We all want our kids to go there, and I think it's our right. I moved here too, I paid impact fee where they were high, and then they came down. I paid taxes, my kid was in private school. Finally, I decided to put him in Wiki Washington because I heard so many good things about the school. Then we had the beautiful college, right? So he was at home. He had a hard time adapting. It was very hard for him to make friends. He loves the school. He loves the teachers. They are amazing. You know, even the private school can compare to how they are and how they have dealt with it. So I really feel bad for everyone because we have to go through this. But I do hope that when you make the decision, you don't pick one area or the other, because the more people talk in this area and these other people don't come and show up. I don't know where my people are. Nobody came. But we all have the right. And I hope when you make the decision, you think about that. One idea that I have, I don't know if it makes sense or not, but I don't know what the capacity is here at the Wiki Washington High School. Maybe you can move the 8th grader here, and then we have more space. While you build more capacity, I would function.
Yeah, thank you. When the work group meets, you know, we treat every zip code, every address, every child as equal. And we just make the best recommendations based on data and logistics that we think we can. So I want you to know that you're represented here as well. And then as far as 8th grade here, that's an option that we can explore, and we've talked about that in the work group. We've talked about every scenario we could possibly think of on this particular K through 8 or K through 12 road. Again, a temporary fix at best. And it depends on how long. There's a lot of logistics that come with that. And then a lot of also, now are you more part of the high school or more part of the middle school? Those are options. Now, eventually, I don't know how soon, but eventually, that same growth is going to hit this school. And a long-term plan would be adding on here that we've talked about as well. We recently bought a piece of property adjacent to us just on what will be a road eventually, just on the other side back here. Not big enough to really build on, but big enough to relocate perhaps a parking lot or something like that. So we're future planning this school as well. But that, please know, every child impacted here, every family impacted is represented, and I appreciate you coming out and doing that for your own family.
So we have 3 minutes. That was 3 minutes. I realize it's a little.
I'll take 2.5.
Yes, sir.
Woodland Waters, I want to appreciate your presence here, educating us on a lot of the details that some of us are very ignorant. Clearly, this is a multifaceted problem. Clearly, this is not something new. It's going to be a problem now. It's going to be a problem in the future. And I don't want to be in your shoes making these decisions. And I've heard a lot of different opinions, a lot of these different points of view, and everything that affects the decision that has to be made. But unfortunately, nobody has talked about the most important part, which is the children. This is a very difficult time. Our children in 2020, 2021 went through a significant pandemic, as all of us did. The impact that it's caused worldwide in mental health in adults and in children has been significant. Our children have had a very difficult time trying to adjust. Their social development has been delayed because of having to be in isolation, rarely looking at their friends through a computer, if that. Making a change now, within a 4-year time period, could potentially be devastating for their social development. So, if anything, understanding that a change at some point has to be made, what I would encourage the board to do is delay as long as possible for these kids to be able to catch up to their social development and their mental health prior to making anything that we can all later regret. Thank you.
So I think that's the perfect reminder, and I appreciate that, and the perfect place to end it. Is any moves that we make or potential moves that we make or don't make for that matter, you're absolutely right. We need to make them with the best interest of every one of our students in mind. So I thank you for bringing us back to that and reminding us it's everything we do is about that. One final question.
Yes. I spoke the other night, I'm the president of the Homeowners Association of Woodland Waters, and I thank all you people for coming out. In 2015, we went over this, and Sophia can vouch for this, that we rezoned everything, and we took the entire county. It was a lot of work, but we had input with the people that it affected. And we didn't get that chance until now. It's like this is already designed and ready to go, and we haven't had our input. We need to remember that these kids need stability. Just like everybody said here, they went through heck with the COVID. And these people are passionate. I can show you how many emails, my phone's been blowing up all night. You know, say this, say that. These people have really made some good points. And I think that you could reach out to some of these people and we could help you get through this so that it isn't a patchwork answer. It could be a moratorium. We need to spend more time researching this instead of just using a computer program that's little dots on the map. And I think you guys should really reach out to some of us. I would be willing to spend my time, as many of these people, to give you guys good ideas.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if you feel you're not part of the process, but this is the beginning stage. You are part of the process, and nothing, and I keep stressing this, nothing has been decided. This is a starting point for discussions. Some great ideas were shared tonight, some great thoughts for all of it, whether it be for immediate or down the road thoughts, we appreciate that. So this is part of the process. And you are welcome. We'll be here again on the 16th. And you're certainly welcome to come back or send others or whatever. I promise you this, the board listens to everything that's being said. Yeah, yes?
March 28th, what are we going to do that says final action?
So, I don't know if it's on this one or not, I can't see, but there's also a workshop in between there on February 28th. There's another school board workshop, where they'll talk about all of these options. We'll present them with everything that's been said. Everything that's been expressed, and they'll talk through that, and they may come out with they should come out with some clear direction at that point, or they can say, you know what, we're not ready. That could be the direction they give us. Yeah, well, the one thing is we have to do is prepare for next year as well. We need to give notice to families, we need to give notice to staff, because any move we make will require logistic changes for everyone. So I'm going to end it, but if you have questions for me, I'll stick around. Just come up. I'd love to talk. All right. Thank you so much.